The night was cold and wet. Rain poured down like silver needles from the dark sky. Streets of the alien colony shimmered under flickering blue lights. Most people had already rushed home. Shops closed one by one. Only a few street lamps still worked, throwing weak light on the wet road. A young human man named Ethan Hale walked alone through the rain. He worked as a low-level engineer for the city's power grid. His jacket was soaked, his shoes full of mud, and his bag heavy with broken tools. He had just finished repairing a damaged power node near the old district. The night shift always tired him, but he didn't complain. Life in this mixed colony of humans and aliens was hard for everyone. As Ethan passed an abandoned market square, he saw something strange. A small figure sat beside a cracked metal stall. The figure was shaking. At first, Ethan thought it was a child. When lightning flashed, he saw her face clearly. She wasn't human. Her skin glowed faint blue under the rain. Her hair was white, almost silver, falling to her shoulders. Her big eyes were bright violet, but they looked scared and tired. She was an alien girl, no older than 15. She wore a torn dress and her bare feet pressed against the cold, wet ground. Ethan stopped. Something inside him felt heavy. She looked hungry and lost. Around her lay pieces of fruit that had fallen from a broken crate. No one else was there. The market was silent except for the sound of rain hitting metal roofs. He walked closer slowly so she wouldn't be afraid. "Hey," he said softly. "Are you okay?" The girl lifted her head. Her lips trembled. She didn't answer. Her eyes moved to his boots, then to her own feet. Mud and blood mixed on her skin. She was barefoot on cold metal ground. Ethan knelt beside her. "You're hurt," he said. "Why are you sitting here alone?" The girl shook her head. Her voice was small. "They told me not to go near humans," she whispered. Ethan sighed. "I see. Maybe they were wrong." He looked at her bleeding feet. He couldn't just leave her like that. He took off his shoes slowly. They were old, the soles cracked, but still good enough. He placed them in front of her. "Here," he said. "You need these more than I do." The girl's eyes widened. "No," she said quickly. "You'll freeze." "I'll be fine," Ethan replied with a small smile. "I'm used to it." For a moment she just stared at him, rain dripping from her hair. Then very carefully she touched the shoes like they were something holy. She slid her small feet into them. They were big on her, but they covered her wounds. "Thank you," she whispered. "What's your name?" Ethan asked. "Lyra," she said after a pause. "My name is Lyra." "Nice to meet you, Lyra. You should go somewhere warm." "Do you have family?" Lyra looked away. "Not here," she said quietly. "I came from far away. They don't know I'm here." Ethan felt a strange sadness hearing that. She looked too young to be alone. "Come," he said. "There's a shelter a few streets away. They'll give you food." Lyra shook her head again. "I can't. They'll find me." "Who?" Ethan asked, but Lyra didn't answer. She stood up slowly, testing the shoes. The rain fell harder now. A gust of wind blew between the buildings, howling like a whisper. "Thank you, human," she said. "You don't know what you have done," Ethan frowned. "It's just a pair of shoes." Lyra smiled faintly. "To you, maybe." She turned and walked into the dark alley. The rain swallowed her shadow. Ethan stood there for a long time. He felt something strange, like the air around him had changed. He didn't understand why her words stayed in his mind. "You don't know what you have done." He shook his head and began to walk home barefoot through the rain. The ground was cold, but his heart felt warm. He didn't know that far above the city, hidden behind the storm clouds, something enormous was moving. A faint hum filled the sky, so soft it blended with the thunder. The clouds flickered with a light not from lightning but from engines beyond human design. Ethan reached his small apartment at the edge of the city. The power flickered as usual. He took off his wet jacket, made a cup of tea, and sat by the window. Outside, the rain had slowed to a whisper. He thought about the alien girl, Lyra. Her glowing skin, her strange eyes, her quiet sadness. He wondered where she had gone. Maybe she had found safety. Maybe she had disappeared forever. He finished his tea and went to bed, not knowing that his simple act of kindness had already set a chain of events into motion. High above the planet, in the silent void, hundreds of ships began to move. Each one carried banners marked with glowing alien symbols. Their engines flared like stars being born. Commanders bowed before a young voice giving orders. The voice was calm, but it carried power. "Find the human named Ethan Hale," it said. When morning came, the people of the colony woke to a trembling sky. The first ship broke through the clouds, casting a massive shadow over the city. Its silver hull shone brighter than the sun, and in the control room of that ship stood Lyra, no longer a lost girl, but something far greater. The story of one human who gave away his shoes was about to change the destiny of two worlds. Morning light broke through the clouds, but the city did not wake to peace. A deep sound rolled across the horizon, low and powerful like thunder that never ended. Windows rattled. Birds fled. The ground itself seemed to hum. Ethan woke up to that sound. At first he thought it was an earthquake. The walls of his small apartment shook and the cup on his table fell and shattered. Then he heard people screaming outside. He ran to the window. What he saw made his breath stop. Above the city floated something massive, blocking out the sun. It was not a single ship, but many hundreds of silver vessels hanging silently in the sky. Their smooth surfaces reflected the morning light like glass and steel woven together. Each ship was shaped like a winged spear. Together they looked like an army of angels made of metal. The colony alarms began to blare. Soldiers ran through the streets. Families hid in their homes. Everyone thought the same thing, an invasion. Ethan grabbed his jacket and ran outside. The air was heavy, full of energy and fear. People were shouting, pointing upward. The ships made no sound now, only a deep vibration that could be felt in the chest. Then slowly, the largest ship descended over the central square. It was bigger than any human building, its surface engraved with glowing lines. The city lights flickered as if bowing to it. Ethan pushed through the crowd, trying to see better. A column of bright light shone down from the center of the ship. When the light touched the ground, figures began to appear, tall alien soldiers in white armor, their helmets smooth and glowing. They moved with perfect discipline, each step echoing against the metal streets. Everyone held their breath. Then one of the soldiers stepped forward, his voice deep and calm. "We seek the one who gave shoes to the barefoot girl." Silence. No one spoke. People looked at each other, confused and afraid. Ethan felt his heart pound. Those words hit him like a shock. He stepped back, unsure what to do. Was this about the girl from last night, Lyra? The soldier continued. She was not a commoner. She was royal blood, the princess of the first Starborn Empire. Whoever showed her kindness must step forward. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some people whispered, "A human helped a royal alien." Others said, "Maybe it's a trick." Ethan wanted to stay hidden, but something in him pushed forward. He couldn't lie. He had helped her. She had been barefoot and bleeding. He had just given her shoes. That was all. He raised his hand slowly. "It was me," he said. His voice was quiet, but in the silence of the crowd, everyone heard it. Every soldier turned toward him. Their armor glowed brighter. Then, to his shock, they knelt. Hundreds of alien soldiers bowed their heads to a single human standing barefoot in the middle of the street. The crowd gasped. Some humans fell to their knees too, not in fear but in confusion. From the sky, the voice of the same soldier spoke again, softer this time. "By royal command, the one who gave warmth to the air shall be honored. Do not resist." A beam of light wrapped around Ethan, gentle but strong. Before he could move, his feet lifted from the ground. The people below stared as he was pulled upward toward the massive ship in the sky. The light dimmed as he entered. The air felt different, cleaner, full of a strange energy that made his skin tingle. When his eyes adjusted, he saw long corridors of silver walls glowing softly. Alien symbols pulsed like living veins. 2 guards escorted him silently through the hall until they reached a grand chamber. The walls opened into a wide space filled with misty light. At the center stood a tall figure in a silver cloak. Ethan recognized her instantly. Lyra. But she was not the frightened girl from last night. Her hair shimmered like crystal. A thin crown floated above her head made of light. Her feet were covered now, in the same shoes he had given her, but transformed, shining like stars. Lyra smiled faintly. "You came," she said. Ethan's voice trembled. "What is all this, Lyra? Why are they bowing?" She stepped closer. "Because of you," she said. "Because no one has ever given without expecting anything in return. In our empire, that act is sacred. You touched the royal bloodline with kindness. Now the whole armada bows to honor you." Ethan couldn't find words. The world outside was panicking. and he stood before a princess who looked at him as if he had changed her universe. Then her smile faded. "But there are others who see your kindness as a danger," she whispered. "And they will come for you soon." The hum of the ships grew louder again. Ethan looked out the window at the trembling city far below. He didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning of something far greater than he could imagine. Ethan stood frozen in the shining hall, unable to believe what he was seeing. The girl who had been cold, lost, and barefoot just one night ago now stood before him as a princess surrounded by light. The same eyes that once looked frightened now carried calm power. Lyra's silver cloak moved gently as she stepped closer. The light above her crown glowed like a living flame. Behind her stood tall alien guards in white armor, their heads bowed low. Ethan's heart beat fast. "You said you were alone," he said quietly. "You never told me you were this." Lyra looked down for a moment. "Last night I was not a princess," she said softly. "I was just a girl trying to understand humans. My people rule many worlds, but they do not understand kindness. I wanted to see if it was real." Ethan looked around the huge chamber. The walls were like glass filled with moving light. Everything hummed softly, alive in some strange way. "You were testing us," he said. Lyra shook her head. "No, I was testing myself. I was told humans only act when they want something in return. But when you gave me your shoes, you asked for nothing. That moment was seen by my father's watchers. It reached the heart of our empire before dawn." Ethan tried to process her words. "Your father? You mean the Emperor," she said. "He knows your name now. He sent the Armada not for war, but for gratitude." Ethan stepped back, shocked. "Gratitude? You call this gratitude? The whole city is terrified. People think it's the end of the world." Lyra sighed, her eyes full of guilt. "Our ways are different. When the royal line honors someone, it must be done in full view of all. But I didn't expect the reaction to be this strong. They came too soon." Ethan walked to the wide window. Below, the human colony looked tiny under the shadow of the giant ships. He saw people still running, hiding, trying to understand what was happening. He turned to Lyra. "Tell them to stop. Tell them to leave." Lyra lowered her head. "I cannot. Once the royal order is given, it must be completed." Ethan took a deep breath. "Then tell me what happens now." She hesitated. "You will be brought before my father on the high deck. He wishes to see the human who gave warmth to his daughter." "I don't think I belong in front of emperors," Ethan said. Lyra smiled faintly. "You belong there more than anyone I've ever met." For a moment they just looked at each other. The memory of last night hung between them. The rain, the shoes, the quiet kindness that had brought them here. A sound echoed through the hall. A heavy door opened behind them. A tall alien figure entered, wearing black armor with golden lines that pulsed like veins. His eyes were cold and sharp. Lyra straightened immediately. "Commander Reth," she said. "You were not summoned." Reth bowed slightly, but his face stayed tense. "Your Highness, I bring word from the Fleet Council. Some among the generals question this ceremony. They say a human touching royal blood is blasphemy." Ethan felt the air grow heavy. Lyra's expression hardened. "Tell them their words are dangerous," she said. "The Emperor himself gave his command." Reth's voice stayed calm. "Some believe the Emperor is being deceived. They think this human's act was no kindness but manipulation." Lyra stepped closer to him. "You forget your place, Commander." Reth's cold eyes turned toward Ethan. "Then perhaps the Emperor should see what happens when kindness becomes weakness." He turned and left without another word. Ethan exhaled slowly. "I think your people don't like me very much." Lyra looked at him with worry. "You have no idea how deep this goes. Some want peace with humans. Others want war. And now they all see you as the spark that will decide which future wins." The floor beneath them vibrated. Outside the window, distant flashes of light appeared in the sky. Not lightning, but energy bursts. Somewhere in the fleet, ships were moving into new positions. Lyra's voice grew urgent. "They're dividing already. My father's command is being challenged." Ethan clenched his fists. "If I caused this, tell me how to fix it." She looked into his eyes, her tone steady. "You didn't cause it. You revealed it. My people have hidden fear behind pride for centuries. You showed them what it means to give without expecting anything back. That threatens them." She reached out and placed her glowing hand on his arm. "No matter what happens, don't lose that part of you." He nodded slowly. The hum of the ships grew louder again, like distant thunder rolling toward war. Lyra turned toward the doorway. "Come," she said. "The Emperor waits." As they walked through the silver halls toward the high deck, Ethan realized that his small act of kindness had already begun to shake an empire from within. And above them, unseen shadows watched, waiting for the first mistake that would decide the fate of both their worlds. The corridor to the high deck was long and bright. The walls glowed like liquid silver, reflecting the light from floating crystals above. Ethan walked beside Lyra, his steps quiet, his heart racing. The guards followed behind them, silent and motionless like statues. Ethan felt small in that place. Everything around him looked too perfect, too clean, too powerful. He wondered what kind of empire could build something so beautiful and yet so frightening. Lyra glanced at him. "You're nervous," she said softly. "Wouldn't you be?" Ethan replied, "I'm about to meet your father, the most powerful being in your empire. Yesterday I was fixing broken wires." Lyra gave a small smile. "My father respects truth more than power. Just speak from your heart." Ethan nodded, though he wasn't sure his heart was steady enough to speak. The doors to the high deck opened slowly. A vast chamber lay beyond. The floor was made of black glass that shimmered like calm water. Above, stars shone through a transparent dome. The entire sky seemed open before them. At the far end of the room stood a throne made of glowing metal and crystal. On it sat the Emperor, tall, calm, and unreadable. His eyes glowed faint gold, his face strong and timeless. Around him stood elders, advisors, and guards in armor that shone like silver fire. Lyra bowed deeply. Ethan followed, unsure how to act but doing his best to show respect. The Emperor's voice was deep and steady. "Rise, daughter of my line, and you human who gave warmth." Ethan stood slowly. The Emperor's gaze felt like sunlight and weight at the same time. "You gave shoes to my child," the Emperor said. "To you it was a small act. To us it broke centuries of distance. Do you understand what you did?" Ethan shook his head. "No, Your Majesty. I only saw someone who needed help. I didn't think about who she was." A low murmur spread among the elders. The Emperor raised a hand and silence returned. "That is what makes it pure," the Emperor said. "An act without reason, without price. Our empire has forgotten such things." He stood and stepped down from the throne. Each step echoed through the chamber. When he stopped before Ethan, he placed a glowing medallion in his hands. The metal was warm and alive, covered with shifting patterns of light. "This is a sign of honor," the Emperor said. "It carries the mark of my house. From this moment you are under my protection. No one in this empire may harm you." Ethan looked at the medallion, unsure what to say. It was beautiful but heavy, as if it carried more than just light. Lyra smiled proudly. "You are now part of the royal bond," she said, but the Emperor's expression changed. His golden eyes dimmed slightly. "With this gift comes a warning," he said. "Not all in my empire share my view. Some believe kindness is weakness. They will seek to test you, and they will seek to test my daughter." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "You mean the man from before? Commander Reth?" The Emperor nodded slowly. "He leads those who think power must rule through fear. He has followers hidden across the fleet. He will not stop easily." Lyra's hands tightened. "Father, we must act now. Remove him from command." The Emperor looked at her with sadness. "If I do that, it will start the war he desires. Sometimes peace is protected not by force but by patience." Ethan looked from father to daughter. "Then what do you want me to do?" he asked quietly. The Emperor's eyes softened. "Be yourself. Continue to do what you did on that street. Even the smallest kindness can change what weapons cannot." He placed his hand on Ethan's shoulder. "But remember this, human. When you give light, darkness always tries to answer. Do not lose your heart when it comes." Lyra stepped closer, her eyes filled with concern. "We will keep you safe," she said. "But we must return to the fleet. My father's words have already reached the council. They will not all obey." Ethan nodded, though his thoughts were heavy. He had never asked for any of this. All he wanted was to help someone. Now that single moment had drawn him into something larger than his world. As they turned to leave, a sudden tremor shook the floor. The lights flickered. The guards raised their weapons. From somewhere deep inside the ship came a dull explosion. The Emperor looked up sharply. "They have begun," he said. Lyra grabbed Ethan's arm. "We have to move," she said. "It's Reth. He's making his move now. The guards surrounded them as alarms began to sound. Outside the window, flashes of light burst across the black sky. Ships breaking formation. Energy fire lighting the stars. Ethan clutched the medallion in his hand. It pulsed like a heartbeat. He didn't yet know what power it held, but he could feel one thing clearly. The war between light and darkness had just started, and somehow he was standing in the center of it. The alarms echoed across the massive ship. Red lights flashed on the walls, painting everything in warning colors. The steady hum of the engines turned rough and uneven. Ethan held the medallion tightly as Lyra pulled him through the corridor. Her guards followed, their weapons glowing faint blue. The air smelled like smoke and metal. The ship trembled again, not from an outside attack but something inside. Lyra's voice stayed calm though her eyes showed fear. "They're striking from within," she said. "It's not a battle yet. It's sabotage." Ethan followed her down a narrow passage. "Who would attack their own fleet?" he asked. "Those loyal to Commander Reth," she said. "They want to prove that my father's kindness has made us weak. They want to show that trust in humans is a mistake." They turned a corner and stopped. The floor ahead was cracked open. Steam hissed from broken vents. Sparks danced like small stars. 2 soldiers lay on the ground, their armor scorched. Lyra knelt beside one, checking for life. He was breathing but barely. "Take him to the healers," she ordered. The other guards lifted him and hurried away. Ethan looked at the damage. "Where does this tunnel lead?" "To the reactor core," Lyra said. "If they reach it, they can destroy the whole ship. It will look like an accident and then humans will be blamed." Ethan felt his chest tighten. "Then we can't let that happen." Lyra gave him a quick nod. "Stay close to me. The inner sections are dangerous now." They moved deeper into the ship. The air grew hotter, the sound of machinery louder. Through glass panels, Ethan saw glowing energy flowing through giant tubes, the power that kept the ship alive. Suddenly, a shadow moved at the far end of the hall. 3 armored soldiers stepped out, their armor black with red marks. "Reth's men, stop!" one shouted. "No one passes without Reth's command." Lyra stepped forward. "I am your princess," she said firmly. "Stand down." The soldiers hesitated. One of them lowered his weapon slightly, but the leader sneered. "You stopped being our princess the moment you bowed to a human." He raised his blaster. Lyra's guards fired first. Blue energy flashed through the air. The hall filled with light and sound. Ethan ducked, feeling the heat rush past him. When the noise faded, the rebels were on the ground, their armor smoking. Lyra didn't look back. "There will be more," she said. They kept moving, running now. The floor shook beneath their feet. A loud roar came from the distance. When they reached the reactor door, it was already open. Inside, the main chamber glowed with burning white energy. The core pulsed like a giant heart. Ethan saw Reth standing near the control panel. His armor was black and gold, his face calm as always. "You shouldn't have come here, Your Highness," he said. Lyra stepped forward, her voice sharp. "You've broken the Emperor's command," Reth smiled coldly. "The Emperor has lost his vision. He kneels to weakness, and now he lets a human walk our sacred halls as if he belongs here." Ethan clenched his fists. "You talk about weakness, but you're the one hiding behind lies." Reth looked at him with disdain. "You think your small act of pity matters? It was a spark of corruption. It will end with your death and the fall of your kind." He pressed a control on his wrist. The alarms changed tone, now a deep warning pulse. Ethan saw the red numbers counting down on the wall. Lyra's eyes widened. "He armed the reactor," she said. "He's going to make it explode." Reth turned away. "In 10 minutes, the ship will fall. The humans will be blamed. The Emperor's rule will crumble. The old order will rise again." Ethan looked at the control panel. Lines of alien script moved too fast for him to read, but he saw the symbols for time and energy. He turned to Lyra. "Can you stop it?" She shook her head. "Only from inside the main conduit, but the energy field will burn anything that enters." Ethan looked at the glowing core. The heat was already painful. "There has to be another way." Lyra tried to stop him. "You can't, it will kill you." Ethan took a breath. "You said my kindness started this. Maybe it can end it too." He ran toward the conduit. The guards shouted, but he didn't stop. The energy field shimmered around him like liquid fire. The medallion in his hand began to glow brighter, reacting to the power. Lyra called his name, but her voice was drowned out by the roar of the reactor. Ethan pressed the medallion against the main control column. The light spread through the system, changing the red energy to blue. The countdown froze. The sound stopped. The ship grew silent again. Lyra ran to him and caught him before he fell. His skin was burned, his hands trembling, but he was alive. Reth stared in disbelief. "Impossible," he said. Lyra glared at him. "You called him weak, yet he saved the empire you tried to destroy." The guards surrounded Reth. He tried to fight, but they overpowered him. Ethan looked up at Lyra with a faint smile. "Did it work?" She nodded. "You stopped it." He let out a weak laugh. "Guess your father was right. Sometimes peace needs patience. And a bit of stupidity." Lyra smiled, her eyes shining. "Not stupidity," she said. "Heart." The lights of the ship brightened again, spreading calm through the halls. The hidden threat had been stopped, but Ethan knew it was not the end. Somewhere beyond that victory, a greater storm was waiting to rise. The ship hung silent in orbit, its lights slowly returning to calm white. Smoke still drifted through the corridors where fires had burned, but the danger had passed. The alarms were off now, replaced by the steady pulse of life returning. Ethan lay in the medbay, surrounded by soft blue light. Machines hummed quietly beside him. His hands were bandaged, his skin pale from exhaustion. He opened his eyes slowly and saw Lyra standing near him. Her silver armor was scratched and scorched, her hair slightly tangled, but her eyes were bright and warm. "You're awake," she said softly. Ethan tried to sit up, but pain stopped him. "Did we stop it?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "You saved everyone. The core was seconds away from exploding. But your medallion changed the reactor's pulse. It stabilized the energy flow. The ship lives because of you." Ethan smiled weakly. "Good. Then maybe your people won't hate humans anymore." Lyra looked down, her expression serious. "It's not that simple. Reth's followers have spread lies. They say you used forbidden human tech. Some think you tried to control the Emperor's ship. They can't believe one human could save what their own soldiers couldn't." Ethan sighed. "So saving the ship still makes me the villain?" "Not to everyone," Lyra said. "To me, you're proof that compassion still has power." She placed her hand gently over his. The warmth of her touch made him forget the pain for a moment. "My father has called a gathering," she continued. "He wants to speak before all the fleet commanders. He will tell them the truth." Ethan nodded slowly. "Then let's hope they listen." Hours later, he walked beside her into the grand hall. The Emperor stood at the center beneath the giant transparent dome. Hundreds of alien officers filled the space, their armor gleaming under white light. The air was heavy with tension. When the Emperor raised his hand, silence spread like a wave. "My people," he began, "today we stand on the edge of change. We were nearly destroyed, not by humans, but by our own pride." He turned and gestured to Ethan. This man, a human, risked his life to stop the destruction of our flagship. He had no weapon, no armor, only his will. While our own turned against us, he fought for us. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some bowed their heads, others looked doubtful. The Emperor's voice grew stronger. "Many of you believe kindness is weakness. But I say this. Strength without compassion is only fear wearing armor. The act of one human saved thousands of your lives. Remember that before you judge an entire species." He stepped aside. "Ethan Hale, speak if you wish." Ethan hesitated. He looked around the hall filled with alien faces, some curious, some hostile. He felt out of place, but he also felt something deeper. Responsibility. He took a slow breath and spoke in a steady voice. "I didn't do it for honor or reward. I did it because it was right. When I saw your princess Barefoot, I didn't see an alien. I saw someone who was hurting. And when this ship was about to fall, I couldn't watch people die if I could stop it." The hall stayed silent. He looked at them one by one. "Maybe our worlds are different. Maybe our ways don't match. But kindness doesn't belong to one species. It belongs to anyone who chooses to care." For a long moment, no one moved. Then from the back of the hall, one soldier dropped to one knee. Then another, then more. Within seconds, hundreds of alien soldiers knelt before him, not in fear, but in respect. Lyra's eyes glistened. The Emperor bowed his head slightly. "You have done what I could not," he said quietly. "You have united hearts that war could never touch." Ethan lowered his gaze, embarrassed but proud. "I just wanted to fix things," he said. Lyra smiled softly. "And you did." Suddenly the hall doors opened. A messenger ran in out of breath. "Your Majesty," he said urgently. Reth's fleet has been captured, but a signal was sent before he fell. Other warlords may come. They think the Empire has weakened. The Emperor's eyes darkened. Then peace will not hold easily. Ethan stepped forward. Then let's show them what real strength looks like. Not fear, not hate, but unity. The Emperor looked at him thoughtfully. You speak like a leader, human. I speak like someone who's tired of fighting, Ethan replied. Lyra smiled at him again. Maybe that's exactly what our world needs. Outside the dome, the stars began to shift. The Armada turned slowly, forming a pattern, the sign of alliance. Ships that once divided now moved together. Ethan looked out into space, still holding the medallion glowing faintly against his chest. He didn't understand the full meaning of what had happened, but he knew one thing. The universe would never see humans the same way again, and somewhere deep inside the stars, forces were watching, waiting to test if that fragile piece could truly survive what was coming next. The sky above the colony was no longer dark. For the first time in years, it was clear and full of light. The alien armada floated in perfect formation across the horizon. Thousands of ships lined up like stars made solid. Their silver hulls reflected the morning sun, turning the whole sky into a sea of shining metal. On the ground, people looked up in awe. What they once feared had now become a sign of peace. No sirens screamed. No soldiers ran. The world was silent, waiting for what would come next. Ethan stood on the high platform beside Lyra and the Emperor. The wind blew softly through the open command deck. He could see the entire colony stretching below him. The streets he once walked barefoot, the same place where he had met Lyra under the rain. It felt like another lifetime. The Emperor's voice carried through the air, calm and deep. Today, the Starborn Empire and the people of Earth stand as one. One act of compassion has done what centuries of war never could. Ethan felt the weight of those words. He hadn't wanted power or fame. All he had done was give away an old pair of shoes. Yet that small act had shaken two civilizations. Lyra turned to him, her eyes soft. It's strange, isn't it, she said quietly. How something so small could change so much. Ethan smiled faintly. Maybe change never starts big. Maybe it just needs someone to care. Below them, a new light began to glow. It came from the ships, spreading outward like ripples on water. Each vessel shifted its position slightly until the pattern became clear. Every ship in the Armada was lowering itself, bowing toward the colony. The people gasped. The entire sky seemed to kneel. Lyra looked at Ethan. They bow for you, she said softly. Ethan shook his head. No. They bow for what kindness means. The Emperor stepped forward. When our ancestors looked at humans, they saw weakness, he said. Now they see something else. A reminder that power without heart is empty. Today our fleets bow not to a man, but to a truth. He raised his hand, and the ships began to release beams of light into the air, forming a vast glowing symbol that united the banners of both species. The mark of peace. Ethan felt warmth spread through him. The medallion on his chest glowed brighter, resonating with the lights above. The storm that once divided their worlds was gone. But as he watched the shining armada, he felt something else too. A quiet unease. He knew peace was fragile. Somewhere out there, other empires, other warlords were watching this new alliance with envy and fear. The universe never stayed still for long. Lyra must have seen the worry in his eyes. You think this peace will not last? She asked. Ethan looked at her. I think peace is something we have to keep fighting for every day. Just like kindness. You can't build it once and forget it. You have to live it, Lyra smiled. Then we'll live it together. The Emperor turned toward them, his expression softer than before. The Empire owes you a debt that cannot be repaid, Ethan Hale. But I can offer you a place among us. You will be known as the protector of the Starborn line. Ethan hesitated. I'm no protector. I'm just an engineer. The Emperor placed a hand on his shoulder. Then you are exactly what we need. Someone who fixes what others break. Lyra's eyes met his. Stay, she said. Help us rebuild. Help us teach my people what your world already knows. That kindness is not weakness. Ethan looked out at the city, the people below cheering as the ships continued their silent bow. He thought about the cold night when it had all begun. The rain, the little girl with bare feet, and a simple decision that had changed everything. He smiled. All right, he said. Let's fix the galaxy together. Lyra laughed softly, the sound full of relief and hope. The Emperor nodded with pride. Above them, the armada straightened again. The ships turned their lights toward the stars, ready to leave, but leaving behind a promise. The symbol of peace stayed glowing over the colony, like a new sun that would never fade. As the last ship vanished into the clouds, Ethan stood at the edge of the platform and watched the sky. The wind carried the scent of rain again, gentle and clean. Lyra came to stand beside him. "Do you ever miss your world?" she asked. Ethan looked at the horizon. "Maybe, but right now I think this is my world." She smiled, and together they watched the rising light spread across the sky. The story that had begun with a single act of kindness had ended with the bow of an empire, and the beginning of something greater than either of them could have imagined.